we're friends, we will remain friends, and we'll work together to bring peace to the Middle East. And we'll work together to try to convince all parties involved to lay down their arms.
I'm so pleased to come here for the first time to meet with my friend President Bush in the Oval Office. He's a friend. I know him some time ago, and I'm very keen to work with him on all issues concerning the Middle East, especially the Middle East problem. We are working very hard, and we are going to cooperate very hard in the direction of peace, because our main concern is peace and stability in the area of the Middle East, which in the interest of the United States, of Egypt, Jordan, and all countries in the area.
Progress is being made. The Arab world now understands they need to be involved in pushing for peace and fighting against the terrorist actions that make it very difficult to achieve a peace. I still am disappointed in Mr. Arafat's leadership. He needs to cut off the terrorist activities.
So you're talking about a speech on the Middle East?
Well, I know it'll be a speech, it may be a discussion, it could be a paper. I hadn't decided the forum.
So you'll lay out.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have good discussions, and that's always important. George Tenet has just come back from the Middle East. Pastor Burns is coming back from that. First of all, Mr. Mubarak can characterize the conversation the way he sees fit. I will just tell you what I told him, and I told him that in order for there to be peace in the Middle East, we must rout out terror wherever it exists. And the U.S. effort to rout out terror around the world is going to benefit the Middle East in the long term. It is important for Mr. Arafat to not only renounce terror, but to arrest those who would terrorize people trying to bring peace. There are people in the region that want there to be a peaceful settlement. And yet, obviously, terrorists are trying to prevent that from happening by wanton murder. And Mr. Arafat must join the effort to arrest them. And when the ship showed up with weapons, obviously aimed at terrorizing that part of the world, I expressed my severe disappointment because I was led to believe that he was willing to join us in the fight in terror. I took him for his word at Oslo. And so I made this very clear to my friend Hosni Mubarak, that ridding the Middle East of terror is going to make it more likely that there will be peace and stability in the region. It was to protect our homeland. Well, Mr. Arafat's heard from us. I can't be any more clear in my position, and that is that he must do everything in his power to fight terror. Obviously, we were at first surprised and then extremely disappointed when the Karen showed up, loaded with weapons. Weapons that could have only been intended for one thing, which was to terrorize. We had an interesting discussion about how we can help the Palestinians, those who aren't involved with terror. I'm deeply concerned about the plight of the average Palestinian, the moms and dads who are trying to raise their children, to educate their children. My government is, I've got $300 million in the budget to go through NGOs to help Palestinians be able to realize a better life. The Prime Minister of Israel back to the Oval Office. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back. We just had an extensive discussion. Chairman Arafat must do everything in his power to stop the violence, to stop the attacks on Israel. I mean everything. And that includes reforming the security forces so that their primary function is to deal with violence. Part of the consultation process that we are having is to determine what's feasible in terms of that political dialogue. What's feasible in terms of the timetable that a lot of people are anxious to talk about. But we're not ready to lay down a specific calendar, except for the fact we need to get started quickly, soon, so that we can seize the moment All sides have made important commitments, and the United States will strive to see these commitments fulfilled. My government will provide training and support for a new, restructured Palestinian security service. And we'll place a mission on the ground, led by Ambassador John Wolfe. This mission will be charged with helping the parties to move towards peace, monitoring their progress, and stating clearly who is fulfilling their responsibilities. And we expect both parties to keep their promises. I've also asked Secretary of State Colin Powell and National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice to make this cause a matter of the highest priority. Secretary Powell and Dr. Rice, as my personal representative, will work closely with the parties, helping them move towards true peace as quickly as possible. The journey we're taking is difficult, but there is no other choice. No leader of conscience can accept more months and years of humiliation, killing, and mourning. America is committed, and I am committed, to helping all the parties to reach the hard and heroic decisions that will lead to peace. I called on Israel to respect the rights of Palestinians, including the right to live in dignity. I urge the Palestinian people to embrace new leaders who stand for reform, democracy, and for fighting terror. I also said that progress toward peace would require the active commitment and support of neighboring states. Today I'm pleased to stand with leaders of the Arab world who are committed to these principles. And if all sides fulfill their obligations, we can make steady progress on the road towards Palestinian statehood, a secure Israel, and a just and comprehensive peace. We seek true peace, not just a pause between more wars and intifadas, but a permanent reconciliation among the peoples of the Middle East. America is fully committed to restoring security to Iraqi cities and helping the Iraqi people rebuild their nation after decades of cruel and corrupt dictatorship. I welcome the support of all the nations represented here for these important goals and hope they will contribute to helping the good people of Iraq. There's a hopeful direction to recent events in the Middle East. In Iraq, a tyrant and supporter of terror has been removed. Reform is taking hold in many societies that are eager to join in the progress and prosperity of our times. I urge nations throughout the region to open their markets, to seek broader trade in the world, and to join us in creating a U.S. Middle East free trade area within a decade. These are historic and courageous actions. If all parties choose to embrace this moment, they can open the door to progress and put an end to one of the world's longest-running conflicts. It will be a full and complete return to the armistice lines of 1940. The Palestinian people must insist on change and on a leadership that is committed to reform and progress and peace. We will help, but the most difficult work is theirs. In light of new realities on the ground, including already existing major Israeli population centers, it is unrealistic to expect that the outcome of final status negotiations will be a full and complete return to the armistice lines of 1949, and all previous efforts to negotiate a two-state solution have reached the same conclusion. It is realistic to expect that any final status agreement will only be achieved on the basis of mutually agreed changes that reflect these realities.
Thank you.
So let's wait till the Prime Minister comes. But if he were to decide to withdraw from the Gaza, it would be a positive development.
I have discussed.
There will never be a Palestinian state, in my judgment, if terrorists are willing to kill. And so the first step we've all got to do is to work on the mutual security concerns of the region. And we can't let people blow up a process, but that's what's happened, as you might recall. And there's been suiciders and killers, and and it's essential that we work together to stop that kind of terror. Their lives. President Mubarak and I discussed the possible Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. We will transfer sovereignty, and as a matter of fact, the United Nations representative Brahimi is in Baghdad as we speak, working with different parties to help devise the system to which we transfer sovereignty, and we look forward to that. Secondly, the situation in Iraq has improved, but you're right, it was a tough week because of there was lawlessness and gangs that were trying to take the law in their own hands. These were people that were trying to make a statement prior to the transfer of sovereignty that they would get to decide the fate of Iraq through violence. A civil society, a peaceful society can't grow with people who are willing to kill in order to stop progress. We also believe that the future of the Middle East and the future of Iraq are closely linked. And I am grateful for President Mubarak's support for Iraq as it transitions to democracy and stability. People of the greater Middle East have a right to be safe, secure, prosperous, and free.